Hello and welcome to Peaky Boardgamer. My name is Rakos and today I'm gonna explain one of those more classic games, Concordia Venus, designed by Matt Gertz. Concordia Venus is for 2 to 6 players and can be played in less than 2 hours. This is a newer version of the game. It offers some more maps and also a team play variant. However, in this video I'll be explaining the individual game and there are very few differences than the original version of this game. Let's move to the table and see how Concordia Venus is played.
In the game, players send out their colonists in one of various maps, producing and trading goods. All players have an identical set of personality cards. They alternate turns, playing one of these cards, gaining access to a specific action. With the Architect card, they mobilize their colonists and establish new trade houses. With Prefect, players activate one province and all players with trade houses in that province produce goods. With Mercator, they can trade goods and gain coins. And with Senator, they can purchase new cards from the card market. When players are running out of cards, they can use the Tribune card to take all of their discarded cards back to their hand. An important aspect of this game is that all cards are connected to a specific scoring category, like having a lot of money, establishing a lot of trade houses, having a lot of colonists on the board, producing large quantities of specific goods, and so on. The player who combines their focused economic strategy with acquiring cards with corresponding scoring categories will win in a game of Concordia. At first, select one of the maps and place the board in the middle of the table. Create a supply of coins and the goods resources of the game. Resources are food, bricks, tools, wine, and fabric. Each player selects one of the colors and takes all corresponding components and the player aid. In terms of personal cards, the only difference of Concordia and Concordia Venus is the Magister card. There are also cards Legatus and Praetor, which are only used in the team play variant, so in our video these cards are excluded. Players have a victory point marker which is placed on space 0 of the scoring track. Players have 6 colonists, 3 land and 3 sea, and they will place 1 sea and 1 land colonist in the capital city of the map, which in our case is Roma. The capital is the only city not depicting a letter. Players place the remaining colonists on the indicated spaces of their warehouse. Players also have a supply of 15 wooden houses, and from the supply they take 2 pieces of food and 1 piece of all other resources which they place in empty spaces of their warehouse. One player is chosen at random to be the starting player, who takes the starting player token and 5 coins from the supply. The rest of the player turn order is determined clockwise, with every next player starting with 1 coin more than the previous one. Finally, the last player in the player turn order keeps the Prefectus Magnus tile in their play area. Shuffle the city tiles and then randomly place 1 tile on every city so that the letter of the tile matches the letter of the city space. All excess city tiles are placed back in the box. As you can see, the board is split into various provinces. For each of the provinces, there is a space of the same color in this area that will accommodate a bonus token. In the top of any player's personal board, you can see the value of each good. According to these values, for each one of the provinces, you must determine the most valuable good and place the corresponding bonus token in the bonus token space of that province. Then do the same for all provinces. Any remaining bonus tokens are removed from the game. Finally, you must prepare the stack of cards. First, remove all cards which are not applicable to your game variant. Cards that depict a column in the bottom left corner are applicable for the individual game, which I am teaching in this video. Cards depicting a double ring in the bottom right corner are applicable for the team play variant. After you exclude all not applicable cards, separate them according to their Roman number in the back and shuffle each stack. Then create a single stack with level 1 cards on top and level 5 cards in the bottom. Finally, place the single Concordia card in the bottom of this deck. Now, using this deck, fill the 7 spaces in the card area of the board, placing the cards facing upwards. The remaining deck is placed next to this area by the side of the board. The game is now ready to start. At this point, I would like to remind you that if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing. Also hit that bell button. It will help our channel and also make sure that you'll never miss any of our future videos. The game is played in player turns, starting with the first player and then continuing clockwise. On their turn, players play one of their cards in their hand in the top of their personal discard pile and then perform the depicted actions. Then it's the next player's turn. This continues until the end of the game is triggered. The game's end is triggered in 2 ways. The first one is when any of the players constructs all of their wooden houses. The second is that as players will be buying cards from the market, eventually the Concordia card, which is in the bottom of the deck, will become available for buying. If any of the players buys the Concordia card, then the game's end is triggered again. When the game's end is triggered, all other players take one final turn and then the game proceeds to scoring. So now we're left with explaining the different cards of the game. Let's start with the Architect card. When you play Architect, you first move your colonists and then you can build houses to cities next to your colonists. Land colonists can move on brown land links, while sea colonists can only move on blue sea links. Your total movement points is equal to the total count of your colonists. So, if the red player played Architect, they can move a total of 2 spaces. As you recruit more colonists, your movement allowance will also be increased. You spend a movement point by moving to an adjacent link. You can spend all of your movement points with one of your colonists, or you can split these points between your colonists. So the red player could move these colonists twice, or move it only once and also move the sea colonist here. Important! All links can only accommodate 1 colonist. So, the green colonist can pass through this occupied link but cannot end movement on this link. After you're done moving, you can build in any cities that are adjacent to the links occupied by all your colonists. Of course, you cannot construct on the capital, Roma in this case. The only limit is that every city can hold only 1 house from each player. The construction costs are depicted on your player aid card. As you can see, there are 5 different costs depending on the type of city where you're building. Noveria is a grain city, so the cost to construct a house there is 1 brick, 1 food, and 2 coins paid to the supply. Goods must be paid from your personal board. Then you take one of your houses and place it next to the city. Very important! The coin cost is paid again for every other house already placed on that city. So, if let's say the green and the blue player already had a house in this city and the red player wanted to build there as well, the cost would be 1 brick, 1 tool and 9 coins paid to the supply. If the player can meet this cost, they can also place one of their houses there. That's the maximum number of houses a city can hold in a 3-players game. Now we move to the Prefect card. When you play the Prefect card, you have 2 options. The first option is to choose one of the bonus tiles of this area, which depicts a good, so that the corresponding province produces, and then you flip the bonus tile to the coin side. The second option is to take all coins currently depicted in the area, so now 6 coins from the supply, and then reset all of these tiles back to their good side. When you go for the first option, so that the province produces, all players with houses in this province will take the corresponding good. The player who played the Perfect card will also take the good depicted on the tile as an extra bonus. So, If in our example the green player played the prefect card, they will receive 1 wine plus 1 as a bonus, the blue player will receive 1 food and 1 brick, and the red player will receive only 1 food. Whenever you acquire new goods, these must be placed in empty spaces of your warehouse. If there are not enough empty spaces, then excess goods must be discarded, but you can also discard other goods from your warehouse in order to make space for the new ones. As we will see, your warehouse capacity can be increased by building more colonists. Also, if the player playing the prefect card holds the Prefectus Magnus tile, then they must use it and double the bonus from the tile. Then this tile will be passed to the next counterclockwise player. So if the green player also had this tile, they would gain 3 wine instead of 2. At the end, you must flip the tile, as we explained earlier, to the coin side. When you play the Mercator card, you first receive 3 coins from the supply, and then you can trade up to 2 types of goods. For each trade, you select 1 good, and you can either buy or sell any quantity of the selected good. The price of buying or selling any of the goods is the same and is depicted here. So for example, I can choose fabric and either buy fabric for 7 coins each, or sell my fabric, 1 or both of my units, and gain 14 coins. Then, for my second trade, I choose brick and buy 3 pieces of brick from the supply by spending 9 coins. With the Senator card, you can buy 1 or 2 cards from the card market by paying a cost in goods. This cost is depicted on the red bar of every card, but you must also pay an additional cost which is depicted beneath the card space. The question mark is a good of your choice from your supply. So, to buy this Architect card, you only need to spend 1 tool. To buy the Smith card, you need to spend a tool, a brick and any other good. And to buy this Colonist card, you must spend 1 food, 1 fabric and any other good. After you spend the costs, you take these cards and add them into your hand. You can use them in one of your following turns. When you're done, you slide all cards to the left and replenish the empty spaces with new cards from the deck, going from left to right. The cards you buy from the market have similar or augmented powers than the ones you start the game with. This, for example, is simply another Architect card, so you have 2. With this card, you can choose to either perform the Prefect power or the Architect power. When you use cards like this here, you immediately produce in all tool cities where you have one of your houses. Only you produce in this case, not other players. With a console card, you can buy only 1 card from the market, but without paying the additional costs of the slot. What is important when you buy cards is not just the effect, but also you will gain more points in the scoring category depicted in the bottom of the card. But we will explain more about that during scoring. Eventually, the card deck will deplete and the Concordia card will enter the card market. If any player buys this card, and it doesn't have to be the last card, that player will score 7 victory points immediately and will also trigger the end of the game. When you play a Magister card, you repeat the actions of the card which is on the top of your discard pile, unless it's a Senator card. So now I would repeat playing the Architect. When you play the Diplomat card, you can use the card which is on top of any player's discard pile. So by playing the Diplomat, I can either perform this Mercator or this Prefect card. Finally, when you play the Tribune card, you retrieve all of your played cards, as well as the Tribune card, back to your hand. Before you do so, you count the number of your total discarded cards and you gain 1 coin for every card in excess of 3. So now that I have 6 cards, I will gain 3 coins from the supply. In addition to that, you can also buy a new colonist by spending 1 food and 1 tool. Then you take any colonists from your personal board and place it in the capital. Then you take all the cards and add them to your hand. Another way to buy a new colonist is by using a colonist card if you acquire one from the market. In scoring, players score victory points for the 7 different scoring categories depicted on their player aid. The player's score will depend on the cards they have in their personal deck. In our scoring example, these are all the cards included in the red player's deck. For the first category, all players score points for every 10 coins they have in their supply. The red player has one card with a 1 victory point symbol, so the player gains 1 point for every 10 coins, thus 2 victory points. For the blue category, players score victory points for their blue houses in non-brick cities. The red player has 4 cards depicting 1 victory point, so the red player will score 4 victory points for every house they have in a non-brick city. If that's the situation on the board for the red player has 10 houses in non-brick cities and scores 40 points. In the yellow category, players score points for every province with at least one of their houses. The red player will score 3 victory points for every province with at least one of their houses. The red player has houses in 9 different provinces and scores 27 points in this category. In the green category, players score points for every province that contains at least 2 of their houses. The red player will score 4 victory points for every such province. There are only 3 provinces with at least 2 red houses, so the red player scores 12 victory points. In the brown category, players score points for every different type of good they can produce by their houses. The red player will score 2 victory points for every different good. The red player has houses in all 5 different good type cities. Thus, the player scores 10 victory points in this category. In the orange category, players score points for every colonist they have on the board, so the red player will score 8 victory points per colonist on the board. The red player has 4 colonists and scores 32 victory points. Finally, in the green category, you check each card separately. With this card, the player will score 4 victory points for every house they have in a wine city and 5 victory points for every house they have in a fabric city. The red player has 3 houses in wine cities and gains 12 victory points, and also 3 houses in fabric cities and gains 15 victory points. The player with the most victory points wins the game. In case of a tie, the tied player who holds the Perfectus Magnus tile or would gain it sooner than the other players wins the tie. So if, for example, the blue and the red player tied for the most points, then the red player would win because they would gain the Perfectus Magnus tile sooner than the blue player. Remember, this tile is passed in a counterclockwise direction.
And that were the rules of Concordia Venus. If you like our videos and want to see more, please subscribe to our channel. Until next time, have fun and play more board games.